Are you ready for the kind of winter storm that doesn't just knock out the lights for a few hours, but slams your town into total blackout for days or even weeks? Because here's the truth, friend. The U.S. power grid is fragile. The Department of Energy admits that weather-related outages have more than doubled in the last 2 decades, and winter storms are the fastest-growing threat. If you lived through the Texas freeze of 2021, you know exactly what I'm talking about. More than 4.5 million homes went dark, pipes exploded, grocery store shelves emptied in hours, and tragically, hundreds of Americans didn't make it. And it wasn't just Texas. In Buffalo, New York, during the 2022 blizzard, people froze to death in their cars just blocks from their homes because the grid and the roads failed at the same time. That's why this video isn't about scaring you. It's about arming you. Because I'm not some distant expert. I'm talking to you as a fellow American who's been through the dark, the cold, and the silence of a powerless winter night. Together, we're going to break down 10 survival tips for a winter power outage. Real strategies, backed with data and hard lessons that will keep your family warm, fed, and safe when the lights go out and the temperature drops below freezing. The time to prepare is before the storm hits, not when you're already shivering in the dark. 10. Fuel and power backup strategy. When the grid dies in the dead of winter, fuel becomes more valuable than gold. And I don't say that lightly. FEMA studies have shown that in severe winter blackouts, households with backup power were 70% less likely to experience medical emergencies. That's a staggering difference. Gasoline, propane, kerosene, even wood. Every drop of energy you have on hand becomes a lifeline. But here's the kicker. Gas stations themselves rely on the grid. Once the power is gone, the pumps are silent, and the panic begins. Within 24 hours, you'll see lines stretching down the block, and if you don't already have fuel stored, you're out of luck. That's why you need to stockpile it now. A couple of 5-gallon gas cans treated with stabilizer can keep your generator humming for days. Propane tanks are even better because they don't degrade, and you can use them for heaters, stoves, and lanterns. But storage isn't just about having fuel. It's about keeping it safe. Store it in a cool, ventilated space, label every container, and rotate your supply every 6 months. And don't forget batteries. Rechargeable lithium packs and solar panels can give you quiet power for phones, radios, and LED lights when your generator is resting. People underestimate how much juice they'll burn. One small heater can chew through a gallon of gas in just 8 hours. So do the math. If you plan to keep a generator running, you might need 30 gallons just to get through a week. Stock it now, because once winter hits, supply chains freeze right along with the pipes. 9. Indoor cooking without poisoning yourself. Cooking during a winter outage is about more than just heating food. It's about not poisoning your family while you do it. Every year, hundreds die of carbon monoxide poisoning because they bring grills, camp stoves, or even generators inside. Let me be clear, never, ever do that. The invisible gas builds up in minutes, and it's lethal. The CDC has documented spikes in these deaths after every major winter blackout. So what's the safe solution? You need redundancy. A butane stove with a few dozen canisters is one of the simplest, safest ways to cook indoors. They're used worldwide, and with proper ventilation, cracking a window even a 1/4 inch, they're safe. Alcohol stoves and sterno cans are another option. They won't boil water fast, but they'll give you hot meals. And don't forget thermal cooking. A pot of rice or stew brought to a boil can be wrapped in blankets or placed in a cooler to finish cooking with trapped heat, stretching your fuel supply. If you're lucky enough to have a fireplace or wood stove, you can cook on top of it with cast iron, turning it into a dual-purpose heater and kitchen. But stock up on foods that cook quickly: oats, pasta, dehydrated meals, because wasting fuel on a roast in the middle of a blackout is survival suicide. Finally, invest in carbon monoxide detectors with long-life batteries. They're your only defense against the silent killer that takes people down faster than the cold. Cooking keeps morale high, but safety keeps you alive. 8. Light in the darkness. Darkness during a power outage isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. The Department of Homeland Security notes that accidents and injuries spike by over 30% in blackouts, largely due to falls and burns. Without reliable light, even simple tasks like boiling water or moving through a cluttered hallway can turn into hospital-level emergencies. That's why your lighting strategy has to be airtight. Forget candles. They're fire hazards, and a single knocked-over flame can burn down your only refuge when firefighters themselves may not be able to respond. What you need are LED lanterns, headlamps, and battery-powered lights. Headlamps in particular free your hands for cooking, carrying water, or first aid. Stock up on rechargeable ones that can run for 30-50 hours on a single charge. Then pair them with a solar charger or power bank, so you're not chewing through disposable batteries. Red light modes are invaluable for preserving night vision and stretching battery life. And don't underestimate the psychological power of light. Kids, especially, will be calmer if their room is softly lit. Glow sticks, yes, the kind you buy in bulk for pennies, can mark stairways, door handles, or even hang from the ceiling to create ambient light without draining batteries. Even Christmas string lights plugged into a battery pack can brighten a room and lift spirits. The rule of thumb? You need at least 3 light sources per person. 1 fixed, 1 portable, and 1 backup. If you don't prepare, you'll find out real quick just how long and terrifying a single winter night can feel in pitch black. 7. Medical preparedness and first aid. Here's a brutal reality. When the power is out and the roads are iced over, you are the hospital. Studies after the 2021 Texas freeze showed that emergency response times tripled, and in some cases, ambulances never arrived at all. So if someone in your family gets hurt or a chronic condition flares up, your preparedness is the only line of defense. You need a serious first aid kit, not the $10 box of Band-Aids and aspirin, but a kit with trauma supplies, tourniquets, Israeli bandages, antiseptic, burn gel, sutures, and plenty of gloves. And medications? If anyone in your household relies on prescriptions, you need at least a 2-week buffer. Pharmacies shut down in a blackout, and even if they're open, supply chains choke. Many doctors will write an emergency supply if you ask, but you need to ask now, not when the storm hits. Don't forget over-the-counter essentials: ibuprofen, acetaminophen, antidiarrheal, antihistamines. Why? Because a stomach bug in freezing weather without running water becomes a life-threatening dehydration crisis. Think about chronic needs, too. Backup oxygen tanks, insulin kept in insulated coolers with ice packs swapped daily, or batteries for CPAP machines powered by a solar generator. Even simple cuts can get infected fast when sanitation breaks down, so stock triple antibiotic ointment and plenty of sterile dressings. And practice. Don't just own the gear, know how to use it. In a blackout winter, you don't have the luxury of calling 911 and waiting. You are 911. 6. Psychological warfare against cabin fever. This one rarely makes the lists, but let me tell you, mental collapse kills faster than you think. Cabin fever is real, and during the 1998 North American ice storm, researchers documented skyrocketing cases of depression, anxiety, and domestic conflict after just 5 days without power. You might be warm, fed, and safe, but if your family's morale crumbles, survival spirals downward. You need a psychological plan. Start with routines. Create a daily schedule, even if it's as simple as cook breakfast, read for an hour, play a board game, check supplies. The human brain craves structure. Entertainment is survival. Stockpile card games, books, puzzles, even downloaded movies on a charged tablet. A deck of cards is worth more than a gold bar when it keeps arguments from breaking out. And don't underestimate light and sound. A small battery-powered speaker can play music, or even ambient noise to drown out the eerie silence of a powerless neighborhood. Social connection matters too. Keep a journal of events, talk with your family, tell stories. During long outages, people have reported that simply singing together reduced stress and panic. Cabin fever thrives in isolation, so rotate responsibilities, water runs, cooking, fire tending, so no one feels trapped. Finally, prepare comfort foods, hot cocoa, instant coffee, even candy. A sweet morale boost in the middle of the cold can turn despair into determination. Survival isn't just about keeping your body alive, it's about keeping your mind from breaking. Ignore that, and the storm wins without firing a shot. 5. Sanitation and waste management. Most people don't even think about this one until it's too late, but when the water stops flowing and the toilets stop flushing, you're staring down a serious health crisis. After Hurricane Sandy, New Jersey shelters reported that sanitation issues, not cold, not hunger, were the #1 cause of illness outbreaks. In freezing winter outages, trash and waste build up fast, and bacteria doesn't care that you're already struggling with the cold. You need a waste strategy. Start with heavy-duty contractor bags, at least 50 of them, because standard trash bags will tear when filled with snow, ice, or improvised toilet waste. A 5-gallon bucket with a snap-on lid and some absorbent materials like sawdust, cat litter, or even wood ash turns into a functional emergency toilet. Bleach or lime powder sprinkled on top after each use will suppress odor and slow bacterial growth. Double bag everything and store it outside in the cold until pickup resumes. For hygiene, stock wet wipes, no-rinse soap, and hand sanitizer in bulk. Washing hands is not optional. It's the frontline defense against gastrointestinal illness that can wipe out your water supply and weaken your family when you need strength most. Gray water, from washing dishes or melting snow, should be dumped well away from your living area to avoid ice buildup and contamination. Sanitation is survival, because once disease starts spreading in a closed home in sub-zero weather, your situation goes from uncomfortable to catastrophic overnight. 4. Fire safety in a frozen world. Here's the paradox. The colder it gets, the more likely you are to burn your house down. During the Texas blackout in 2021, the state reported a 10x increase in residential fires as desperate families turned to fireplaces, candles, or even ovens for heat. That's why fire safety in a winter outage isn't optional. It's mission critical. First, every heating method you use comes with risk. So fire extinguishers should be staged in every room where you're burning fuel, wood, or even candles. Not one extinguisher shoved in the garage, one in each active zone. Second, test your smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms before the storm. You need fresh batteries that can run for weeks without power. Third, never overload extension cords from generators or battery banks. Cold wires stiffen, connections loosen, and suddenly you've got sparks in the middle of a tinderbox. If you're burning wood, clean that chimney beforehand. Creosote buildup ignites fast, and firefighters may not even be able to reach you through the ice. And always keep flammable items, curtains, blankets, furniture, at least 3 feet away from any heat source. Even small flames can leap higher when oxygen is scarce inside a sealed room. The irony is brutal. You could survive the cold, only to lose everything in a fire you could have prevented with a $20 extinguisher. So lock this into your brain. In a winter blackout, heat keeps you alive, but only if you control the fire, not the other way around. 3. Community and neighbor alliances. No matter how tough you think you are, survival is rarely a solo act. After the 1998 Quebec ice storm, studies showed neighborhoods that pooled resources had 50% lower mortality rates than those where families went it alone. Why? Because one household may have a generator, another has a wood stove, and another has medical training. Together, you create redundancy that no single prepper can achieve. So before the storm, introduce yourself to your neighbors. Exchange phone numbers. Identify who's vulnerable. Elderly residents, families with infants, people with disabilities. When the grid goes dark, they'll either need help or become desperate. By organizing early, you turn a group of panicked individuals into a survival network. Share information. Who has water? Who has tools? Who has firewood? Even just keeping watch together at night discourages theft, because yes, crime does rise during blackouts. Opportunists know alarms don't work, and police are stretched thin. Community also combats cabin fever. A shared meal, even if it's just soup cooked on a camp stove, lifts spirits and reduces panic. But alliances require balance. Don't give away everything, because charity without limits leaves your family at risk. Instead, set boundaries, trade supplies, share tasks, rotate watch shifts. Survival isn't just about food and heat, it's about resilience, and resilience multiplies when people work together. If you wall yourself off, you're one broken heater away from disaster. If you cooperate, you're an entire village with multiple lifelines. 2. Mobility and evacuation readiness. It's easy to assume you'll just ride it out, but sometimes the brutal truth is you can't. During the 2022 Buffalo blizzard, hundreds of drivers were stranded in their vehicles, some for over 24 hours, and dozens didn't make it. You need a mobility plan, both for leaving the house and potentially evacuating altogether. First, keep your vehicle winter ready. A full gas tank, snow tires or chains, and an emergency kit that includes blankets, water, snacks, a shovel, traction mats, and a first aid kit. Cars are death traps when idling without ventilation. Carbon monoxide will build fast, but they're also lifeboats if stocked correctly. Second, clear pathways now. If your doors freeze shut or snow drifts pile against them, evacuation becomes impossible. A snow shovel, ice melt, or even sand can be the difference between freedom and entrapment. Third, know your evacuation routes. If the grid is down for weeks and temperatures plummet, warming shelters may be your only option. Map them in advance, and assume GPS may not work when networks fail. Finally, consider micro-evacuations. Just moving to a friend's house with heat, or even shifting your family into a garage apartment with a wood stove. Mobility is about flexibility. Don't cling to pride or stubbornness. Know when your house is no longer safe. Having a bug-out bag with documents, cash, medications, and basic supplies ensures you can leave in 10 minutes if conditions demand it. In winter outages, those who prepare for mobility live. Those who wait often don't. 1. Water is life. If you forget everything else, remember this. Water is non-negotiable. In freezing conditions, dehydration can kill just as fast as hypothermia, and most people don't even realize it's happening. Cold air dehydrates you faster because every exhale is a cloud of moisture leaving your body, yet you don't feel thirsty like you do in summer. That's why the U.S. Army Cold Weather Survival Manual drills this point. A minimum of 1 gallon per person per day, even in the dead of winter. But when the power goes, pumps fail, treatment plants shut down, and pipes burst. So what's the plan? Store at least 2 weeks of water now. Bottled, jugs, or barrels, kept indoors so they don't freeze solid. Fill your bathtub with a water bob bladder before the storm hits to capture up to 100 gallons. And remember, snow is not water. Eating snow lowers your core temperature and accelerates hypothermia. It must be melted and ideally boiled or filtered. Snow carries pollutants, bacteria, even road salt. Keep purification tablets, portable filters, and a backup means of boiling. Even a rocket stove outside can turn dirty ice into safe water. And rationing is a myth. Drink what you need. Dehydrated bodies make poor decisions and collapse faster. Store electrolyte powders too, because in cold stress, you lose salts just as quickly as fluids. Water is the first domino. Without it, sanitation fails, food prep fails, health fails. If you don't lock down your water supply before the grid collapses, everything else you prepared will mean nothing. So let me ask you, if the power went out tonight, right now, in the middle of a deep freeze, would you honestly be ready? Not kind of ready, not I've got a flashlight somewhere, but truly prepared to keep your family warm, hydrated, fed, and safe for days or weeks without the grid. Because here's the reality. These outages aren't rare anymore. NOAA reports that over 80% of all major U.S. power outages since 2000 have been caused by severe weather, and winter storms are only getting stronger, fueled by extreme cold snaps and volatile weather patterns. Preparedness isn't paranoia. It's responsibility. You buckle your seatbelt every time you drive, not because you expect a crash, but because you know the consequences if one happens. Survival planning is the same. The question isn't if the next winter outage is coming, it's when. And when it does, your family won't be asking why you prepped. They'll be thanking you that you did. So take these 10 steps seriously. Stock fuel, secure water, build alliances, protect your health, and guard your sanity. Because when the grid goes dark and the cold closes in, the thin line between struggle and survival is what you did or didn't do today. Now, I'll leave you with this. When the lights go out across your neighborhood, will your house be a beacon of readiness, or just another shadow in the storm?